Hi, everyone. Let's talk about the reading for this upcoming module in which we're talking about women in economics. And Charlotte Perkins Gilman is someone you're reading Women in Economics this week. And Charlotte Perkins Gilman is someone that you should be familiar with some of her work. Um, Let me see if I can pull up. Yes. She wrote a famous book called The Yellow Wallpaper. It's a short story. I highly recommend it. I know that it says book, but it's a short story. Um, and her most famous novel is Herland. And usually you can buy Herland, and I would say it's a novella. It's really small. But anyway, she wrote this book, and The Yellow Wallpaper deals with the issue of a woman who is in the house with she just had a baby, and her husband's a physician, and she sits in this yellow room. Um, and it's a metaphor for how women are controlled within a marriage, in the confinements of marriage and child. Um, so she is writing in Women in Economics about how a woman in motherhood and being a wife, what that looks like, and how what economic value women bring to the table. Because if you're not going to hire them, then we need to quantify women's work. And the women's work, and I'm gonna read a few quotes because I think that that's um hmm, she talks about how on page 93, the human mother, so to educate her children as to complete with bearing and nursing have only begun. She carries the child 9 months in her body, 2 years in her arms, and as long as she lives in her heart and mind. The education of the young is a tremendous factor in human reproduction. A right motherhood should be able to fulfill this great function perfectly. Yeah, but it's this. Let me continue. When it comes to they subtract from the family income the mother absolutely dependent upon that income, and also overworked in her position of unpaid house servant, is not impelled to court maternity by any economic pressure. They are economically oppressed. There is no economic benefit of motherhood. And as she continues to look at how how do you quantify, you need to begin to start thinking about the quantification of the job that women do in the house. When it talks about they are from birth to death absolutely non-productive in goods and labor of economic value. They are underutilized in society. And I want you to think, and there's some other readings in this module that deals with the front facing of society when it comes to women and their name, and how that took a long time for women to be able to keep their name. And that also became an issue in the workplace because there are jobs in which they did not want to pay the same person twice. So if they're working at the same institution, they'd argue, we'll just give your check to the husband because you have two people with the same very name. And it's like, but we just have the same last name. We don't have the same first name. But historical documents show once a woman gets married, she doesn't just lose her last name, she loses her entire name. She becomes Mrs. her husband's name. And what kind of economic value are we missing here from a whole segment of the population not being able to engage in the economic structure? But Gilman is arguing they kind of are being utilized. they're just not, but society doesn't economically value their utilization in dollars and cents. Like in today's language, there is no retirement plan, there's no 401k plan, there is no leave of absence when it comes to household and childhood duties. And it's not to say that they are unwilling to do childhood duties or even household duties. It's just that if they make the decision to do either, they're being overworked in these spaces, even if they do not work outside the house. If they are not providing any financial going out and earning money, then they are still being overworked. And I'd add that if they are going out and earning money, there is a level of being overworked when it comes to coming home to do household duties and coming home to also do childhood duties. It's a lot. And that's what Charlotte Perkins Gilman is asserting. I think this whole reading, it's you're reading not just this, but there are three readings, and it seems like long, but they really aren't that particularly long, because the final aspect of this is women, Black women, economic rights, and it's not just a matter of looking at Black women in general, but I know that this one is, if you look at also Latino women, it's the same issue. They are also working, and for Black women particularly, they didn't have the benefit of not working. And even those who did have an upper echelon, which financially they didn't have to work because of parental money, they still tend to be doing something. So the concept of not doing anything is really not the Black woman's story. And so they tended to actually become more of, the vast majority of them became more educators for the community. They became that space where collectively looking after children became almost the deep, and things attached to that became the thing that's um, the role of Black women within economic structure. Uh, Attaching that with husband, being a wife, and being a mother. Anywho, this is a really good start. I hope that you continue the conversation. There's one reflection and one discussion. I'm going to stop with the summaries in every chapter and move towards reflection and discussion so that you can engage more fully with each other. And I hope you have a great module that opens on Monday.